Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome back to another Train Sim World 5 news video, and this is a really exciting one because finally, we have got the release date for the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route from Just Trains, and it is coming to Train Sim World 5 on the 21st of November. Get that marked down in your calendars. It's just less than a month away. Finally a release date. It was only yesterday I gave you the other news update with the new screenshots, and then suddenly this afternoon here we are. The release date has been revealed, I'm really pleased to say, and we finally got something that we can now look forward to and just count down the days. So there was, along with this, another Dovetail live article this afternoon. You can see the link at the top of the screen. I will put it in the description if you want to go and read it directly. We're just going to quickly skim through. There are some new screenshots as well, which we'll take a look at as we go. But it's getting very exciting now, as if it wasn't already. And Dovetail tell us that we can tap into 1980s nostalgia and run up Just Train's stunning and immersive West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle route, coming on the 21st of November to Train Sim World 5. Then we've got a quick introduction. We know a lot about it already, but let's run through it. Just Trains are one of our partner developers who work on their own routes and locomotives for Train Sim World, and last year Just Trains made their TSW debut with the release of the Blackpool Branches route add-on featuring the Class 142 Pacer DMU. We talked about that lots and lots, haven't we? I think, and many of you agree with me, that even now, Blackpool Branches is the best DLC we've got for TSW5. I know all of you don't agree with that, but many of you do. It's still my favourite in the game. From what I can see that's upcoming, only this one is going to trump that, but we'll see. We'll see when it releases on the 21st. And it goes on to talk about Just Trains and their next release, and they've continued to push the boundaries by developing the longest UK route in Train Sim World and introducing more sought-after rolling stock with the Class 87 locomotive and Mark 3A coaches. A full timetable of 1980 services features in the add-on, along with conductor mode functionality and plenty of layering for players that own other routes and locomotive add-on set in and around the same era. And we'll get to the layers a little bit later on in the article. So it says there's a lot to get into, so below find a summary of the rolling stock, the route and the gameplay elements that you can look forward to. But before we do that, let's just have a look at this great screenshot again of Carlisle, and you can see in here we've got a couple of 87s with a 101 over in that left hand bay platform. There's another 101 poking out at the back. It's showing a very busy Carlisle there, isn't it? So all the screenshots get better and better. They honestly do. Let's talk about the rolling stock. And first of all, let's talk about the 87/0 and the 3A Mark 3A coaches, the FFA/FGA container flats, and the BBA steel wagons. New to Train Sim World is the Class 87 electric locomotive, the first electric locomotive to be added to the British fleet in-game. This classic traction from the 1970s quickly became the star of the West Coast Main Line during the 1980s, when the nationalised British Rail branding was widespread across the entire UK rail network. In-game, the 87 will provide a totally unique driving experience in Train Sim World. An advanced style of operation offers a real challenge to players familiar with more modern electric units and diesel locomotives, and is equally distinct from the large roster of electric locomotives seen in German add-ons. So it's talking about the way you drive the 87. We've driven, in TS Classic, we've driven the 87 and the 86. And if you want to have a look at, in particular, how these things work, you can get a good idea of that in a little video that I'm going to link to up in the top right hand corner now, where I think in that one we drove the 86. I think we drove the 86, or was it the 87? I don't know, we've driven both, but anyway, they're very similar. I'll put a link to the video in the top right hand corner. It was a couple of months ago, so I forget. We do that much, don't we, on the channel? Again, another screenshot there of an 87 with said coaches at the looks like the north end of Carlisle station. But in Just Train's own words, this loco takes you back to the much more interesting time when you drove a bit more by the seat of your pants and had to think and plan a lot more. It is definitely evolved, as you'll see. There is a screenshot coming up, as you can see, of the cab of the 87, and it is, of course, a tap changer, similar to, as it mentioned, similar to a couple of the German locos that we've had, but it's a little bit different. And do watch the video that I'll link to just see how to drive these types of trains in the UK if you've not seen that before. At the centre of this is the tap change operation. This phase will be familiar to players of some of the older German locos, as we just mentioned, like the BR103 and the 111. And with this comes a degree of jeopardy with the potential to fail if not operated correctly. The main circuit breaker, or the MCB, will trip, cutting the power to the drive motors if you try and demand higher power than the train can supply. Well worth remembering that. It might take you, if you've not played these in Tiers Classic, it might take you a little bit to get used to it. But I'm going to assume, and we'll find out later, that all the tutorials are going to cover this. I'll be covering it as well once I get my hands on it. We'll cover it in a very simplistic term so that you can get the hang of it. And if you're not sure, you can watch the videos on the channel and pick that up, hopefully pretty quickly. It says, in addition to this, the 87 has a number of notable and unique features. Authentic neutral section operation, which is unique in Train Sim World. There are a few neutral sections between Preston and Carlisle, so it'd be good that they're working. Fully accessible loco corridor or machine room, including operating controls, and you can walk fully between the cab ends. Fully authentic sound set supplied by Armstrong Powerhouse, so you know that's going to be good. A unique and large number of locomotive nameplates included. There are 2 liveries. Locomotive operating tutorials, there we go, some tutorials from there. The ability to start from a totally dead state, also called cold and dark. Realistic simulgraph train dynamics based on real world data. And Just Trains have also employed the use of a real world Class 87 engineer or driver to ensure the authenticity of the in-game driving experience. So there you go, you see, not only is this going to be a good looking route, it's hopefully going to be true to real life, looked at by real drivers of the 87, probably drivers of the 87 that have driven this route as well, and driven the 87 on this route with any luck. So we'll get the route reviewed, and we'll also get the 87 reviewed. And so, you know, again, the attention and the focus they've put into this one, I can't see it being anything other than, you know, a complete winner. We'll see. Using Train Sim World 5's new photo mod improvements can make for some excellent prototypical shots of the era, such as this one taken by James in the product marketing coordination team, and you can see he's put some film grain on that to capture the era of the route, which is quite nice. Though today they've since been replaced by more modern EMUs, a single mainline certified example of the Class 87 still sees rail tour action along the West Coast Main Line, much to the delight of enthusiasts and players with Train Sim World 5's core West Coast Main Line London Euston to Milton Keynes will be able to use free roam to run all the rail tour services in a modern setting, so that's quite nice. Also, players of the Deluxe Edition may also wish to operate the Class 390 on Just Train's stretch of the West Coast Main Line in free roam, albeit during an era from before these trains were introduced. I have said this all along that I'm going to look past the era a little bit just so I can run the Pendolino up and down the 90-mile stretch between Preston and Carlisle. It's something that we've done on the channel quite often in Train Sim Classic, so I am gonna do that. I'm quite looking forward to that. And of course, then there is a link to the Just Trains blog if you want to go over the previous dev blogs that have come out, or of course we've got videos on the channel where we've reviewed those dev blogs as they've come out since August. August, I think, was the first one that we had. Also new to Train Sim World are the eagerly awaited Mark 3A passenger coaches, which were permitted to achieve a slightly higher speed of 110 miles per hour over the Mark II variants, which was 100 miles per hour. Then onto the 101, I see a familiar screenshot that we saw in the Morecambe branch update. This is the Morecambe branch here that you can see just approaching Morecambe station. And running alongside the high-speed express services of the local trains served by the Class 101 DMU, as previously seen in Northern Transpennine and Tees Valley Line route add-ons. I did tell you guys to start practicing again if you've not been in the 101 for a while, because you're going to be using it again with this route. These classic first generation DMUs from the 1950s ran through until 2003 and saw action across a large number of main and branch lines, including the Northwest. For the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle release, the Class 101 has been worked on to provide a number of improvements on the previous releases, and these include the addition of suspension physics. I have an idea the 101's going to bounce a little bit like the Pacer. If I remember going on the 101 correctly, it was quite a springy little DMU. Enhanced audio, which is always nice, updated interior textures, updated destination blinds, and exhaust smoke effects. And the Class 101, importantly, is included in the West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle route add-on. Players do not need to own previously released content to access these, so it's bundled in. So don't worry if you haven't got Northern Transpennine or Tees Valley, it'll get bundled in with this. Then, of course, we've got the old faithful BR Class 08 Shunter, and offering up shunting gameplay. This is the dependable Class 08 Shunter. This ubiquitous legend has seen action across 8 decades, from its original use in depots and yards frequented by steam locomotives, through to use in the preservation movement and continued use on mainline yards into the 21st century. A couple of shots there of the 08. One actually pulling some tanks, and then one is parked. Looks like it's parked just outside the sheds. Looks like we got. Is that another 87 there in the background? It looks like it on that one. The Class 08 services will occupy the yards and stations at Preston and Carlisle, providing a shorter, more engaging style of gameplay that involves moving stock between roads and getting trains ready for haulage by other locomotives. And again, the Class 08 is included in the West Coast Mainline Preston to Carlisle route add-on. Players don't need to own previously released content to access the 08. That's really good. Then on to, of course, the 47. This is the 47/4 diesel locomotive. And for players wanting a familiar loco to operate between Preston and Carlisle, the Class 47/4 returns, having been seen in multiple Train Sim World route add-ons in various guises, including Blackpool branches, where I think was the first place we got the large logo liveried 47 that you can see in this screenshot. The difference in operation between this and the Class 87 will offer 2 distinct experiences for players along the length of the route, and a way for players to learn the route prior to taking on the challenge of the 87. There you go again, you see. So Just Trains and DTG are alluding to the fact that the 47 is just going to be that little bit easier to drive and something that you're used to, and the 87 you're gonna have to learn it pretty much from the beginning. But it's going to be a really good challenge for you, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So there's another screenshot of the 47 pulling some passenger coaches. And like the Blackpool branches variants, these locomotives feature nameplates and livery variation, as well as some smoke effect improvements and visual differences over some of the older versions from previous TSW add-ons, including the suspension physics. This 47 is also included in the route, so you don't need to access any other add-ons that have got a 47. This will be included, which I'm actually really pleased about. You can get this, it seems you can get this as a whole package rather than having to rely on older DLCs that you may or may not have. So the route itself, Preston to Carlisle plus the Morecambe branch, is almost 100 miles of track included, and it is the longest route in UK route, because we had this debate the other night, didn't we? What's the longest route in TSW? We think it's one of the German high-speed ones, but this is certainly the longest UK route in Train Sim World. This dramatic and high-speed stretch of line forms part of the much longer real-world West Coast Main Line, extending from London Euston through to Scotland. And I think this stretch here is the Loon Gorge. I think this is the M6 over on the right-hand side, and this is the Loon Gorge, which threads its way through these hills and mountains. Really spectacular, near the town of T-Bay, and it's a real, well, if you're on the Pendolino, it's quite a curvy section of the West Coast Main Line, and really brings out the tilt in the Pendolino. That's why you should try the Pendolino. If you own it, try the Pendolino when this comes out. So Preston will be familiar to players of Just Train's previous route add-on, the Blackpool branches. It will be able to make use of Train Sim World 5's new route hopping feature to port between the two add-ons. So there is the confirmation that route hopping indeed will be enabled between the two routes. From here, the West Coast Main Line continues to extend north, facilitating gameplay down to the next station on the line, Lancaster. And this northern city, whose name links to the famous House of Lancaster and the wider county of Lancashire, is also where a branch line splits off for some additional short-form gameplay to the seaside town of Morecambe via Burr Lane. And we looked at that, didn't we, in last week's update from Just Trains. Then a train will pass through Cornford Station, where during this era the Steamtown Museum was located. Oxenholme, further north, then provides the real-world jumping-off point for passengers keen to explore the Lake District. And we know all about Oxenholme, don't we, on this channel? We don't need to talk about Oxenholme too much. We'll come to that when we start driving the 87 on this route, I think. On this stretch, the famous Shap Summit will provide a challenge for those driving any kind of traction, climbing up to the highest point on the West Coast Main Line. And after a call at Penrith towards the northern end of the Lake District, players will reach the city of Carlisle, which not only features the station, but also the nearby Kingmore Depot. You can read more about the real-world history of some of the stations and locations in Just Train's development blog. Again, I'll also put a link to the Just Trains blog again, so it's all in one package in the description, so you can read this article and look at the screens, and or go to the Just Trains website and have a look at the dev blog there. So we've seen this video before. This is the time lapse going in and out of Carlisle station, so if you've not watched that, have a click on that. It's very interesting. And we want to talk about layers. And the timetable for this portion of the West Coast Main Line will depict a full 24-hour weekday based on the working timetable from the era even, and a trip notice booklet for the region. This will use the available rolling stock to feature high-speed express trains running from Preston through to Carlisle, as well as local, main and freight services, including the Morecambe branch line. Also featured is up to 6 hours of shunting gameplay at Carlisle using the Class 08 in multiple trip workings. 6 hours of shunting. That I wouldn't do the 6 hours in one go. I love doing shunting with the 08, but I wouldn't do it in one go, and probably you won't either. You may come in with a service which then follows on with a shunting service to remove the engine or prepare a train, for example. You might do it that way. But just the fact there's just 6 hours gameplay with the 08 is pretty good. It's pretty good. Then additional service layers. This is where I've not read this yet, and I'm quite interested in what happens. I can see the Jubilee there at the top in the screenshot. In addition, the timetable will be further filled with services and substitutions from other Train Sim World add-ons. So this is where you start to get a little bit more value for your other add-ons that you own. So first of all, players with other add-ons in the collection will be able to see and operate the following services on the West Coast Main Line Preston to Carlisle. So if you've got the Blackpool branches, you will be able to have services for the Class 142 Pacer and the TEA wagons. If you own West Cornwall Local, there'll be something for the Seek Out and Turbot wagons. The Tees Valley line will also bring in the HEA wagons. Northern Trends Pennine will bring in the Class 45 diesel. Spirit of Steam will bring in the Jubilee, the Mark 1 coaches, the 16-ton mineral wagon and the 20-ton brake van. The BR Heavy Freight Pack, which is part of Northern Trans Pennine, will also allow for the Class 40 diesel. Imagine the Class 40 going all the way from Preston to Carlisle. That's going to be awesome. The Class 31 is going to bring in the Class 31 itself and the PCA wagons, and if you own the Class 20, that's going to bring in just the Class 20 and the PGA wagons. And also, if you own the Flying Scotsman will also appear. In fact, is that the Flying Scotsman up there? I think that's the Flying Scotsman, isn't it, up there? That's not the Jubilee. So, one important point though, at the bottom, it's worth mentioning that due to the technical limitations of the 8th gen consoles, the level of some of the available features is reduced, and a separate reduced timetable will be available to players on those consoles. That's a very important point if you're on the PS4 or the original Xbox. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't actually say what the details of that is, but keep your eye on DTG's channels for that. As far as scenarios go, there are 5 scenarios on the route. The first one is with the 47, and that is broken down. An express train has failed at Penrith and requires rescuing. Starting at Kingmore Depot, you'll be briefed by a member of staff before finding your rescue locomotive. A cold start will be performed before meeting the failed 87. Then the next one is Tap Changer in the Class 87, which is to haul a passenger service between Preston and Carlisle on a wintry day. No doubt a few snow flurries will occur along the way, so be extra vigilant with the braking as you call at Lancaster, Oxenholme and Penrith before the final stop of Carlisle. And also you'll be going over Shap Summit as part of this during winter, so get a good run up before you get to Shap. Curragh Collection, this is in the Class 08. The Curragh is located to the southwest of Carlisle Station. It has a dedicated wagon works shed which oversees many repairs to rolling stock on a regular basis to ensure they're fit for service. Your task is to convey a mixed rake of BBA steel wagons along with FFA FGA container flats to the works at Kingmore. On arrival, you'll find a fresh set of wagons waiting to be returned back to Kingmore. Then we've got Southbound Liner. This is also in the 87, which is to haul a heavy container train from Carlisle North Yard south to Preston. You'll be looped at several places along the way. The weather is booked to be sun with patchy cloud along the way. We've got one in the Class 101, the 3-car DMU. This is called First Generation Stopper. Join a 101 at Carlisle Station, working the last leg of the service from Leeds to Morecambe via Lancaster. During the evening rush hour, will run back in service again in the reverse direction as far as Carnforth. That'll be quite a nice little service. We did the run between Morecambe and Carnforth just in the last few days in TS Classic, if you remember. Collectibles, of course, we always have collectibles, don't we, on these routes. There'll be parcel trolleys, miniature castles, route maps, mint cake, which nearby Kendal is famous for. It is indeed. Kendal mint cake is very famous and often favoured by hill walkers and mountaineers to give them that energy. It's pure sugar, basically. It tastes of mint and it's pure sugar. So you can see why walkers take that, and if they get stuck out in the wilds, they can have a bite on that and get some energy. And there's rail tour posters. Some of these will be located in explorable buildings and locations, including the fully modelled signal boxes at selected places on the route. Mastery challenges, of course, there will be mastery challenges. Tier 1 will unlock decals, and Tier 2 unlocks a toggable scenery tile. It doesn't say what that is, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But importantly, the release date is the 21st of November, and then as far as pricing goes, if you're in the UK, it is $32.99. It is €39.99, or in dollars, $44.99. So standard price, I think. Honestly, for that price and this level of quality, the length of the route, everything that's included. I'm just gonna make a guess without having even seen the route yet, apart from the screenshots. You're gonna get your money's worth out of this one. If BR Blue is your thing, and if this era is your thing, and you're a big fan of the UK routes, of course. Everybody's idea of value is subjective to what they are, what they usually enjoy in TSW. This one, you can tell, can't you? You've been able to tell now for months. This one's right up my street. It's just, it's crazy. I couldn't have wished for a better route. I thought Blackpool Branches was good, but this one's going to be even better, I think. One other thing to mention that it mentions on the bottom of there: mark your calendars for the 14th of November, because there's going to be a preview of the route, which will also feature a member of the Just Trains team. So you'll have one of the devs on there for the preview stream, and probably will answer questions. And I think by having one of those devs on there, you'll really see how passionate they are about this route, and what it means to them, and how well they want it to go for us as the players. So 21st of November, it can't come quick enough. I will hope to get some kind of early access if I can. I think I'm gonna go into my diary and book the day off work. That's how excited I am for this. Now I know the date, I can do it. So once again, this has been a slightly longer news update than we would normally do, so thank you for sticking with it. Do go and read the article yourself, take it in, have a look in the layers, see what you've already got. Maybe prior to this, you might want to pick up a couple of missing items, which will provide layers for this if you're planning to get this one, just to give you the full experience. But I hope you're excited. Do leave me a comment, let me know. I want to know, is it day one? Or are you going to wait? Are you waiting for the preview? And then are you going to buy it? Let me know down in the comments. I know a lot of you are going to go for it. A lot of you are excited. I don't blame you. I don't blame you, to be honest. It's not often a route as exciting as this one comes out in TSW. And they've hit the nail on the head with this one, I think. So thanks again. Please do leave me a little like. I'm going off again now to calm down. I wish they wouldn't give daily updates. I mean, I don't mind it, but I can't take it anymore, Daily updates is I thought yesterday's update was good. This one's mega. We've only got to wait till the 21st. I'm going off to write on my calendar right now. So take care, everybody. I'll see you all later. Bye for now.